Sign in Microsoft
Yeah,
Office.
yeah.
Isn't it a
'Cause,
thrill?
but the thing, if you just want to do your basic report
Yeah.
and print
Yeah, it's
stuff,
fine.
LibreOffice is much better at formatting and
Mhm.
keeping formats than Microsoft Word is.
Yeah, 'cause
And
I was always told Microsoft Office was designed not to play well with others.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah,
don't leave Microsoft Office
no,
environments.
the guys at LibreOffice, they had to retrofit XML
Ah,
into the file so that they could save as docx and XLSX
huh. Good evening,
because
Mind the Comics.
it's proprietary to Microsoft.
Ah,
So OpenOffice couldn't use it, uh, and the guys who do the LibreOffice, which is an open source thing, they had to retrofit it themselves, writing all the code themselves in order
huh,
not to look like Microsoft code.
huh.
But it works.
Wow. Speaking of writing code, a um, a teacher I know teaches with me. Hey kids, I'm a computer. Hey, stop all that downloading.
No,
Hey
you're not a
computer,
computer.
stop all that downloading.
You're not a computer. You're a Newfoundlander.
And
There are no
this
computers
guy
in Newfoundland. Only
wrote
fish.
some code. Good evening, Mr. White Gloves, Splash Page Comics. He wrote some code that uses AI. He was trying to do this as a way for like comic book artists to sell prints at cons. Where let's just say you have a comic book artist, you've got a piece of art. Um, and he used like as an example a Charlie Adler piece with oh god, his name just the guy with the bat um in it, and you could take a picture of a fan, you know, and like it takes 4 seconds for this piece of software to take the face of the fan and put it into the artwork. So you can put your face on your favorite piece of artwork. It was kind of crazy to watch. And like I said, he made it. He used AI, but he wrote the code himself. However, he did that. But he wants to get it to artists who do cons to see if there's some money to be made with it. But it was a kind of interesting idea. Like I said, it just takes you just snap a photo, say this photo, this piece of artwork, and it puts the face on the face. Negan, there's his name. That slipped out of my head. Howdy, here for the part. You kids, put your thumbs up. Let's see. Do we have some? Our special effects are gone.
Yeah, maybe they want us to pay for it.
Maybe it's a maybe they teased us with it for free, and now they want a
Hmm.
subscription to pay for it. Now that we're
Yeah,
thrilled by it,
first hits always free. Now you're addicted to it.
now I'm addicted to making thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up, and it doesn't do it. Oh, how rude!
Hmm.
Yeah, but I thought this was a neat little piece of software. I'll try it with my students first. See, take some of their artwork and put their faces on it. And he's working on a cartoony version of it too, because it works best with sort of, as he said, it works best with regular eyes. The big cartoony eyes, he doesn't
Hmm.
have it down for yet. We need Wilson for the magic to be complete. Yeah, he might be showing up. He's catching up on some work, he said, which is weird because he's usually working as he's talking. But I guess he's got to concentrate on this stuff.
Hmm.
So maybe we'll see him tonight. Maybe we won't.
Maybe Chris will surprise us.
Maybe Chris will surprise us. Who knows? Maybe Jeff or Daisy will subscribe us. I send them invitations every week, but we haven't seen them in ages.
Hmm. How is Daisy doing?
She's doing okay. Her mother just went into a home, so she's been
Mm.
busy dealing with her mother's health.
Okay.
And but she's doing all right.
Cool.
Let's see.
Maybe when she has time.
Yeah, when she has time, we'll see. And I've got 10 comics this week, which is amazing to me that I had 8 comics on my pull list. And I saw 2 other comics. I'm like, I feel like getting an extra couple comics this week. But 2 comics made my, hey, they're the balloons.
Well,
By going to the piece on it, maybe they heard us and said, we got to give these guys some balloons.
Maybe you have to move the thumbs a little.
I did before.
Okay.
They gave us they only give us the balloons. When I said 2 comics.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Don't do this. The British might misinterpret.
The peace sign is that way.
Wait for victory.
My bill went from like $29 to $40. 2 comics, $11. I was like, whoa. Because one was double sized and $7. And the other was, a normal comic at $4. I'm like, wow, 2 comics made my bill go up $11. What was that?
Should have bought Spawns.
I should have bought Spawns. Extra Spawns. I'm here for this channel's high-end effects. Evening comic rack. And I'm actually going to buy some next week. I've got plans to spend $100.
Ooh. Did you win the lottery?
No, but I'm gonna get the because they've had it there for a while. The Michael Golden Artist Edition. I don't know if you've seen that. It's really nice. So I think a bunch of his Marvel work, and a lot of it I haven't seen. But I flipped through it, and I was like, oh, finally this week, I was like, how much you want for that? Because they go for like $150. But it's been sitting around the store, and I think the comic shop's price on them is $90. So he's only making $10 off it on me. But at this point, he's like, I'm a regular customer, and he's happy to get rid of it at this point. So TGIF, gents. TGIF 62 Lefty Blues. Do they have the artist editions over there?
Yeah, if you want to order one, you can have it. The shops are not guaranteed to have them because they're a bit tough sells.
Yeah.
Not every reader wants to appreciate the art in a larger format
and they're
without color. Yeah, they're expensive. Yeah,
they're expensive. That's what really. If there were $10, there might be more of them there. But they're, like I said, 100 to 150. Just got in a package from Tomorrow's. They had a great sale on the comic book collector's issues. Oh, cool. Yeah, I saw that. I keep meaning to get some digital versions of those. Because as much as I like the printed ones, I'm like, they take up so much room. And I've got so many comics.
Yeah, and if you want to buy a bunch of them at once,
it's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's up. And they are not as cheap as they look. Sometimes you look, those are $25. They're not bad, but then 96 pages. Soft cover.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, those are some of the special ones, not the like regular. The magazines are usually, I think they're up to $10.95.
I haven't bought the magazines in a while. I didn't stop. I stopped buying the magazines many years ago.
Me too.
I didn't think they were expensive because they weren't. I think they were at the time because they were black and white. They were $5 for 400 pages.
They may have been like $6.95 when I stopped.
But I was buying Alter Ego, and all of a sudden, man, it went monthly, and all of a sudden I had nine issues to read, and I couldn't have, even at $5 and 400 pages, I couldn't afford to just let them pile up without reading them.
Yeah,
because the whole point is to read them.
Right. And then they start to pile up and you feel guilty for not reading them, and that makes you
Mhm.
not read them even more. And so that can
Mhm.
be a problem. Yeah. The sale was 3, 5, and 6 up to 20. Oh, that's good. If you get the printed issue, you get the digital version free. Oh, that's cool. By the way, did you see it was on one of the comic book Facebook groups I have. I haven't bookmarked it yet, but somebody has started a searchable database of comic fanzines.
Hmm. I haven't seen it, but does look interesting.
Yeah. Look, it's either in, I think they had it in Marvel Method, and I think they had it in People's History of the Comics.
Yeah, people's
Um,
history. I haven't seen that in a while.
so, but yeah, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I don't think it has Fantagraphics is like it doesn't have Fantagraphic. Well, it has Fanta. What it is they were explaining that most research databases, like for outside of comic books, don't give you the whole publication. They give you what you put in the search. They give you like 3 or 4 pages of what you put in the search engine. That way, Fantagraphics has its own database that you can subscribe to. So this one, the guy said he set it up where it's a searchable database, but it will give you the whole the whole fanzine if you ask for it, except for Fantagraphics. Because it'll give you the few pages of Fantagraphics that you're looking for, which is good.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
they
you can
usually
just
they keep their stuff in print, or they keep their stuff available in digital files. And they're
right.
always selling them.
Yeah, so they don't want to step on Fantagraphics' toes, I guess.
Mhm.
Just wanted to give a shout out to you guys in this community. Finally getting over some health things, and these Fridays have helped with this crappy little last while. Thank you all for all you do, guys. Well, we're glad to help you. We're glad you can be aboard and have a good time. And hope you're feeling better, because it's no good feeling crappy.
Totally.
Not fun.
Mhm. Still trying to find. It may be in Marvel Method, because I can't find people's history of
Yeah,
comics.
it's in one or the other. I can't remember.
Yeah,
But
well, I'll look for it later.
yeah, I mentioned this last week, and it came in. Where did I put the comic? Oh, the comic's over here. Oh, geez, I didn't even open it. It's really taped closed. I got Bunny, number 21, with the hip painter to go in my pop art series.
Yeah.
And you know what's weird about this? Because I thought this was a 60s series, because the other issues I got from the 60s. And it in fact is. The first 20 issues ran from 1967 to like 1971 or something.
Mhm.
This issue came out in 1976.
Oh.
Like the last issue came out 5 years after the second to last issue. And you can kind of tell, like, first of all, why are the word balloons not white?
Ah.
And you can also tell that they weren't like, you notice how she blends in with the background?
Yeah.
That's because the background color is 25% magenta. And her skin color is 25% magenta, 25% yellow. So the only difference between these two is 25% yellow, which is pretty light. And I noticed in like the pictures I saw on eBay when I was looking for this, some of them you can see the yellow really faded, and she blends in even more than she does here in the background. So I'm like, I don't think they put their top guys on the production of this, on the coloring and production.
Probably Harvey in the late 70s. They were winding down very slowly. I
Right.
guess they didn't want to admit it.
Even those
If
word balloons.
are these Oh, and these are all reprints. Yeah.
Even those word
Yeah.
balloons, not great. And you know what's funny? I saw this and I was like, is this book trimmed? Because look how close, if I can turn it upside down. Look at how close that bunny logo is being trimmed off there.
Hmm.
And the comics code is being trimmed off here. But I'm like, no, there's nobody in their right mind would trim, because you know how people trim expensive comic books in order to make the corners sharp.
Hmm.
Like
Might
nobody in their
be.
right mind would trim an issue of Bunny.
Yeah. That might be your copy though.
Yeah, just probably my copy.
Yeah, because it's not the image that's in the GCD. It has a lot more room there.
Yeah, and also when I mentioned this last week, when I was looking for this online, I ended up finding the original production negatives for the cover.
Ooh.
Here is, let me see if I can show you the black plate. And what these are is, we've talked about comic book separations before, and what the separators do. Here's let me get big so I can show you. Here's the black plate.
Uh-huh.
And you can see up top, there's plenty of room for Bunny.
Yeah.
So but this is the black plate in negative. And these are all the color plates in negative.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is,
that's the yellow?
That's the red.
That's the red. Okay.
And this is interesting too. If you look up here, see where it says red, 100 red, 50, and 25?
Mm-hmm.
They only had 3 reds, 3 yellows, and 3 blues to work with. So they only had 27 colors on this cover. They didn't even have a fourth one. There's no 75. So they didn't even have 64 colors, which a lot of other comics did. They only had 27 colors to choose from, because each one says that. It says on the top 150, 25. And sure enough, if you look at them, that's all they have. So what I did with these is I scanned them in, though it's tough to scan in acetates, this negatives. Okay, so first of all, the reason these are in black and white is because the color separators didn't actually work in color. The colorists worked in color, and they would send the color guides to the separators, and the separators would just let's see, these, where's the red? There's the yellow plate. The back of this is 25% yellow, so they just paint 25% gray. They had their pots of ink. They'd have only 3 pots of ink for this. They have a pot of ink that's 25% gray, 50% gray, and black. Those are that's it. Those are the 3 colors they worked with. And anywhere you saw 25% magenta, on the magenta acetate, they'd paint 25% magenta. The sky was 25% magenta, 25% yellow. So they'd grab their 25% gray and paint it on the black plate and paint it on the yellow plate. And then they would, after those were, like I said, those were only in black and white because they don't have to be in color. And then they would take a picture of them with a screen. These actually you can't see it here, but there's little dots like in her leg, because in order to, they would lay a literal screen over the black and white color separations because that's how printing is done. Now it's all done digitally, but back then, in order to break it up into the little dots, you would lay a literal screen over the stuff, and it would screen it. And then they'd make the printing plates from these negatives, which would transfer the little dots onto the printing plate. So that they never had to be in color until you inked the printing plate. So, 25% magenta, 25% gray stands in for it. That's what made the color separations faster because they weren't working in color.
Mm-hmm.
So then what I did was I scanned them in, but it's tough. It's tough to get perfect scans of them without a printer designed to scan transparencies. I've got a printer that can scan negatives, but not 8x10 negatives. So that actually, I wonder if my old one can. I'm going to have to look into that. So I was using my regular scanner on it, which did 95% of the job. But the problem is when the way a scanner works is it's just a light. It shines a bright light on the artwork as the scanner moves across and scanning. So that bright light can reflect off of, shiny acetate, especially if it's not laying absolutely flat, which it often, when they shot the artwork for real, there was like the table it went on was a vacuum table. So it was always laying absolutely flat. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. It was like a big camera that you shot like these negatives with. They'd have a table with a glass cover on it. You'd lift up the glass cover. You'd put the artwork down on it. You'd close the glass cover. You'd flip a switch, and there was a hose that ran to the back of the table that sucked all the air out of it. So whatever you got on there would instantly flatten in the vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they got good. That's not on my scanner. But I ended up making my own. First, I got some inkjet acetate to print on. It's what you can. I think people use it for. Remember overhead projectors, which I guess are still around.
Yeah.
Which usually is like graphics on clear acetate that you put on this and it projects it onto a screen. Well, I made my own 3M proof of I made the print. I scanned in the printing plates, made them what colors they are. And this is what a 3M proof looked like that Wilson was showing us last week, the real ones, where this is how Harvey Comics would check to make sure that the coloring on first you'd look at it to make sure the coloring was right. And then if something wasn't right, you could see which plate it was on. So I decided I was going to try and make my own, and it did a pretty good job of it. The color's not as bright as it should be because I don't think I have the right. I haven't found acetate setting presets. So if you compare these two, like the yellow's pretty good. It's like the background is a lot lighter on my acetates than it is on Bunny itself. Yeah, you can see how much darker this Bunny pink is than my pink over here. That's because mine didn't print the 25% magenta and yellow as dark as it didn't even print. See that blue there? That's supposed to be 100% cyan, and it didn't. I think that's just settings on my printer, though. Let me see what we got here. It's like underestimating how a magic trick is performed. It's more cool than the trick. Understanding, yeah. Cooking dinner, I'll hop on after I eat, but I'm still working, but I can work and talk. Okay. Now I'll show us your cooking techniques, Chef Wilson. What are you eating, Wilson? Fascinating. Thanks, Jared. I'm making baked chicken breast with rice and beans, and I'm listening to you guys on my iPhone in the kitchen. And I also decided to print out a 11 by 17 version of it because, and in this version, I have to say, I don't think I got the black plate as dark as I want it to be. I mean, it looks pretty good.
It does. For a print, it doesn't look bad. I mean,
oh no, this is going to be the best print you can get. Well, not this one itself, but making prints from the actual negatives, you're going to get a good line. You're going to get a better line than anything else. But if you look at like the feathering in her hair, it's a little light compared to the printed version. See, the feathering in her hair is a bit darker there. And that's just me just adjusting the exposure / threshold. But what happens is when I make the exposure / threshold darker and capture that black line, it picks up all these little black specks on the black plate that have gotten there over time, which just means I have to clean them up, which I'm going to do, and I haven't done yet. It's going to take an hour to clean them all up, and I just haven't done it yet. But I'm actually going to do that to get a better black plate so I can make a better print of it. But yeah, really cool. You know what's weird, too, that I never, in scanning these in, let's see if I can find them. There we go. These, I don't know what the, like, see the, let me see if I can find, see that what this side I want to go. See this random spot of gray right there where my finger is? That has nothing to do. That has nothing to do with the color. It's supposed to not be there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They must have had it. It was like they were testing their brushes outside. That's not supposed to be on the yellow plate. There's no. But clearly it was made with their. Maybe they were testing their brush. Maybe they're doing. But I had to clean that up. I'm like, they must have had to clean that up at the printer too. So and there was some of that on every plate. Like, oh, here they were. See those gray spots? I don't know if maybe it's the aging of the negative or something like but it looks like brush marks. So I would think like the color separator put it on there and they somehow dropped it out when they printed, but I had to clean all that stuff. Oh, maybe it doesn't show through on this side. Maybe that was it, because I had to scan them from this side because I had to put I was reading how to scan these and they said emulsion side down. And this is the emulsion side, the side that the photochemicals were on. So maybe they shot from this side so that what was on this side didn't matter. So that they could put all that random brush marks there out around. That's interesting. We'd have to talk to some of the original separators to figure out why those marks are there. Don't know if any of them are left. But that was a fun find. I only found it because I was looking for this cover. And it's weird that just somebody, Robert Cook in Maryland had it. Whoever he might be. Well, that was fun to mess around with. I'm going to clean up that black plate more. So I might even recolor it because it's pretty simple to color. There's nothing complex there. And maybe even try to rescreen it. Because Photoshop what used to be done as a matter of course, you put a screen over the artwork so you photograph it and print it, is now a Photoshop effect. You can put a screen, whatever size you want, over whatever artwork you want in Photoshop. But I'd have to figure out what the line. But screens line screen is the name of it, have different sizes. Like covers were printed at a smaller line. The smaller the screen, the better the printing. Covers were printed at a smaller line screen than the insides, which is why if you take a magnifying glass to the covers, the dots are smaller than if you took them on the inside. In old comics. Now you can't even see the dots. It's even with a magnifying glass, it's tough. The dots are so small. But as I was sitting there doing that, I was like, wow, how many people are left in the world who even know how to do this? It was strange.
If that issue came out 5 years after the last one, and because it's all reprints, the only reason they put it out was so they could keep the trademark.
Hot Wilson says, years ago when I worked at the printer, I saw something like that, where they added black marks to cover sketches. It might be like, yeah, I think they were definitely covering something. But like I said, and looking at the back, they must have been shooting it from the other side than I was. Because there's no way that they're cleaning up all those marks. I mean, there'd be no reason to. They might have been covering it because there was something called I remember there used to be, if you were shooting a negative, and there was like a whole bunch of black, what would happen was if the artist didn't do it right or something, there'd be pinholes in the black or any kind of holes in the black. And they had this stuff, I don't know what it is, that they used to paint on negatives to cover up the pinholes. I remember it being red too. It wasn't even black. It was like this opaque ink, maybe. It wasn't really ink. It dried real good. It was like an opaque whiteout, except it was like reddish. It was like a dark red, and you'd use that on the negative. I bet that's probably what that stuff was at some point. But it looks like it was on the separations and not the negative. Who knows? Weird, man. Not enough people. For Bunny? Not enough people know how to do that. Yeah. I don't know how many, like I was sitting there doing that. I'm like, how many? And it was funny. I was on my way into the city. I was at Secaucus Junction in New Jersey, switching trains. And I had a little time because I didn't have to be in for a while. So I was sitting on the bench in Secaucus Junction, reading my magazine, The Sun. And as I was putting it back in my bag, this guy was like, "What magazine was that?" And I was like, "I think I used to subscribe to it." It was The Sun. So we started discussing the magazine. And it turned out he was a guy who used to scan in, back in the day, used to scan in film. When they were digitizing, when Hollywood was digitizing all its stuff. He was one of the guys who scanned in film for Hollywood. And I was like, I was just scanning in production negatives. I was like, and I was just sitting there thinking, how many people are left who know how to do this? Because like I said, probably all the people who scanned in film, they don't scan in film, and there's no film to be scanned in anymore. They did it all. So what production art did you find this week, Paolo?
I didn't find any production art, but I did look up something because they have the covers on Mediatek, and on the Fossil show I showed the Autosport edition Michel Vaillant that we co-published with our newspaper. What, over 15 years ago?
Wow.
In which I was tangentially involved because I picked the comics to be published on the initial batch of 10.
Ah. And what comic was that you picked?
No, I picked we had a basic idea because we wanted to. The Man from Lisbon was important because the story is set in Portugal, and we were going to open it with it. And we wanted to publish the first Michel Vaillant story from 1961.
Okay.
Then I picked one specific form of motorsport for the next 7.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one was going to be a biopic of Ayrton Senna, which is the Michel Vaillant. In France, is publishing the Michel Vaillant dossier series. They're comics, but they're not fiction. And that was the bestseller. But we had to translate it ourselves. My boss translated it, and I proofread it. And that took a while because it had more text than usual. The regular comics were made by the comic book company, by what used to be Mary Berike. They had gone out of business when we started publishing the newspaper with our newspaper, but they still had the rights to some things, even though their company didn't exist anymore. Although we were kind of limited on what we could put out. At first I did a basic list of 19, and then we would pick from those. And out of those 19, more than half were not available, so I had to replace them on a list.
Not available.
Mm-hmm.
And this week, a new issue of Cerebus in Hell came out.
Okay, what does it make fun of?
The cover joke is worth the price of admission, though. This one is Spore Bat Bark 380.
Oh, God, no.
But then down the bottom it says, Dave Sim wants everyone to know, A, this cover was not his idea, and he LOL'd when he saw it. So here he is saying to Todd McFarlane, hey, I got 380s issues of Cerebus now. What do you have? But this issue was hit and miss right within the issue. The first half of it is Spore Batvark jokes, and I use the word jokes loosely, because it's mostly about them at San Diego, infernal San Diego Comic-Con. Since it takes place in hell, the joke is they put infernal in front of everything, even though it's no matter what they're talking about in, infernal Comic-Con, infernal this, infernal that. So it's all about jokes. And once again, I use the word jokes loosely, about trigger warnings on things. And I never cease to be amazed about how people that don't like trigger warnings get triggered by them. I'm like, if you're going to spend half the book complaining about trigger warnings, I think you've been triggered. And there's no jokes. It's just mentioning things that should have trigger warnings, I guess. And but often beneath the surface of infernal Hollywood, Sparkle Factory, it's not all swag bags and open carry cocaine holsters. That's the caption. And then Spawnvark. I swear, if they try seating me next to PlayStation 4 unwanted sexual touching the video game at the premiere, I'm going to hawk a giant loogie into that. And here's another thing that I find bizarre about this. It's Cerebus in hell. It all takes place in hell. but he won't write actual curse words. He'll just use all the symbols for curses. I'm like, isn't it in hell? Shouldn't you be able to say curse words in hell?
No, if he's mocking Spawn, you'll notice that everyone swears in Spawn, but they all have the symbols.
Maybe.
Because, which you
And,
kind of wonder why the hell Todd bothers with it.
and what's weird too in this too is he puts quotes around, I guess, what are supposed to be jokes, because when he says Infernal Hollywood Sparkle Factory, it's not all swag bags. Like, swag bags has quotes around it. Why? Sparkle Factory has quotes around it. Why? And down here he's got Harry Styles is so last year with quotes around last year. Does he expect us not to know that it's a joke? I mean, why in a million years would you say Harry Styles is so last year and put quotes around last year? Like, we don't know what last year means in that context? That's just so weird. And he continued to do that. Oh, and then it switched over to somehow making fun of Darth Vader's voice, and then them inventing AI to take movies and put Darth Vader's voice on everybody. So, like the back half of the book, what is it? Trigger warning. I don't know. Back up. There's Darth Vader's voice on Michael Keaton's Batman, I think that is. Darth Vader's voice on Casablanca. At least this stuff was kind of funny. Then all of a sudden, he switched to making Joseph Stalin jokes. What? Joseph Stalin, Darth Vader jokes. Once again, I use the term joke very clearly. Defending genocide of the people, genocide for the people, genocide by the people, and genocide for the people. What? So bizarre. So bizarre. The Darth Vader back half was better than the trigger warning front half. The third most common reason selected by online Twitter bots and unaccompanied online avatars is James Earl Jones, unlike COVID-19, would never overwhelm emergency room medical staff. Oh, this is he did a bunch of strips of asking people, supposedly had done a poll on why people like the Darth Vader voice. Another bizarre issue of Cerebus in Hell. And next issue, we're going to see some Miracle Man pattern. And this, oh, by the way, this issue was copy 698 of 1326. Collect them all. I don't have them all. I'm missing 2. That stuff is weird. Let's see. The red ink overlap on Daredevil, for example, where he's over a Black Knight background with the red ink swooshing over the black one. No, that's due to, well, it is kind of, but it's also due to the overlap is because the plate shift and also trapping. They did it sometimes. But sometimes it's like when they know the color is going over black, they didn't spend as much time making sure it was perfect because it would get absorbed into the black mostly. So that's why that was a way to save time. So yeah, no real techniques. Season the chicken with garlic, adobo, paprika, not adobe, adobo, I think. Paprika and a bit of chili pepper for a kick, and bake until cooked. It's always good to bake until cooked. Lucifer doesn't allow cursing in hell. Demons are gentlemen. Yes, that must be it. Sims wisely doesn't trust the smartness of his last 1,000 readers. That could be it. That's why he puts the jokes in quotes. Ramos Comics season adobo, paprika. Bourdain would dedicate a whole program to your cooking, Shadow Wilson.
Mm-hmm. It's like the McBain character in The Simpsons. That's the joke.
I would pick up the Sim book just on the pure craziness because it feels like some odd folk art, but it's just too creepy. Yeah. You know what? I rationalize it by saying he's really no creepier than most of the religious nuts out there. And there's a lot of them. They're in Congress, there's plenty of them everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Scratch the surface of lots of people you don't think are religious nuts, and they're religious nuts. He just had a comic to publish his religious nuttery in.
Well, maybe Dave Sim is the craziest religious nut they have in Canada.
Could be, but I bet they got more. No doubt. But I can understand people not wanting to buy his book. It's crazy. Might not be the best way to spend your $4 on comic books.
Mm-hmm. Is Dave Sim old enough to be suffering from dementia?
But I also, Dave Sim has got no influence. There are plenty. I mean, on the influence scale of crazy religious nuts, he doesn't even make it onto the scale.
Mm-hmm.
So giving Dave Sim your money does nothing except let him keep a roof over his head. It's not like he's spending money to further his crazy religious nut agenda, as so many others are. Matter of fact, buying a sandwich at Chick-fil-A supports more crazy religious nuttery than buying a whole lifetime's worth of Dave Sim comics.
Mm-hmm. It was only 21 when he started doing Cerebus.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how young he was back then, because he's 67 now.
As he said, he condemned himself at 21 to a 20-year prison sentence.
Well, if he was hoping to get it done in 20 years.
I can't remember how many. Maybe it was a 30-year prison sentence. Yeah, it was a 30-year prison sentence, right?
Yeah. Okay. It took him a while to get the last. It took him over a year to get the last year of material done.
Well, that's right. I have that phone book now. I haven't looked at since my comic shop gave it to me a couple weeks ago.
You wanted too many religious nuttery for us.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever reread those last. I keep saying I should reread them just to, because when did Cerebus end? 2003? Somewhere around there?
Maybe. Can't remember.
I think so. So it's probably been 20 years since I read those last issues. Wonder what the circulation on those last issues was. Couldn't have been a lot.
And I'm not really sure how many people actually have a complete collection of Cerebus, all 300 issues. I doubt that everyone that started with the book stuck with the book, or that people or even that people who started went back to manage to get all the back issues.
If the people do have a complete collection, there are people like me who have reprints and the phone book editions. I have a complete Cerebus, but none of the original issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got the first issues in the early 90s. He reprinted them in Cerebus Biweekly.
Mm-hmm.
So his plan was to reprint the whole series bi-weekly, but I think it only went 25 issues. Hey, there's a thumbs up. Look at that.
Finally.
So I don't even have like the phone book of the first 25 issues. I have the Cerebus bi-weekly of the first 25 issues. Then I think I have the phone book of what volumes do I have? 2 through 14 and 16. But I have the individual issues of like the last 3 years of Cerebus, and I have a bunch of other issues in there that I got as back issues. So I have a complete Cerebus set, but not the complete Cerebus individual issues. And I imagine if you have a complete Cerebus set, that's what you have. You're like me. I mean, how many people have bought it from 1 to 300? Not many. I have to imagine.
Yeah, 35 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. I mean, I could have, if I had stopped, I could have had it from like 20 on up if I bothered to buy. I always meant to start buying Cerebus and never did. Because there have been series I have every issue of Usagi Yojimbo over the last 30 years. So I'm the type that would have every issue. But it started a little before me, and I just didn't jump on. Mm-hmm.
And then that goes back to my idea that there's really no point in having all of the original issues if you can have the reprints. And if it's easier to get the reprints, especially if they're collected editions.
Oh yeah, it all I like buying them as they come out. But I also like buying collected editions of stuff. Like if I want to read something from 20 years ago that I don't have the issues for, you're right, it's easier to track down a collected edition rather than or something I just missed like Black Science. Missed it. That's a series from the last 10 years, but I kind of missed out on this. I ended up not buying it, but then I bought those 43 issues in that one trade paperback just because, why do I want to track down all the individual? I've never been a big back issue buyer either. I've always been a current comic buyer.
Yeah, exactly. I've always been that if a friend of mine has the comic and I want to read it, I'll borrow it. There, I've read it. Now I don't even need to own it.
You don't need to own everything. Yep. I have to say that his covers are very interesting. Many times I've almost picked them up. Yeah, Cerebus does have some nice covers. It really does. Which you can't really get. I don't know if they have them you can't get them in color in the phone books. So that's a good view on it, Jared. Adding to the Chick-fil-A example. I like your mindset. Yeah. I agree on the covers of the new ones, but then I open them and it's just sad because the character could be much more. He has got a likable personality like Bone or Rocket Raccoon. Yeah, Cerebus is not likable. That's the whole point of Cerebus. Cerebus doesn't like you. He just wants your money. That was one of the T-shirts he sold.
Yeah, but that's honest.
Cerebus was just more ambitious than any comic of its time, especially.
Sure.
Yeah. Stan Sakai seems like the exact opposite of what Dave Sim is. Can say they did the same logistic work for 3. Yeah. Oh yeah. Stan Sakai is just telling stories. Stan Sakai's ambition is just to tell cartoon stories with Usagi Yojimbo. Dave Sim's ambition was to, I don't know, tell stories of. Dave Sim's ambition was to stretch the genre, to tell stories that hadn't been told before in a length that nobody had ever told them before in. If I were to try and say what Dave Sim's ambition was.
Reminds me of something that once read a Neil Gaiman interview, and he was describing some singer that he likes, but that disguises deep songs as pop songs, 3-minute
Mhm.
pop songs, and I suppose that was what Dave Sim was trying to do.
Deep songs as pop songs. Yeah, that could be close,
Mhm.
but of a length that wasn't pop. Well,
No,
maybe
no,
not if you
they
count each individual issue.
right because they still existed.
Yeah,
That's how we
yeah.
disguised the story.
Okay, yeah. Right. I can see that. Another weird thing I got this week is Basic Instinct #1.
Hmm.
I have no idea why I got this.
But it's the movie.
No, it is not the movie, as far as I can tell. Um, and it was on my pull list, so I must have 5 weeks ago thought there was something interesting about it and put the first issue on my pull list to check it out. But as I saw it this week, I'm like, I don't remember. I like that. Maybe I just liked the cover,
Hmm.
this weird cover.
Yeah.
The art inside is pretty cool. It started out weird and then turned. I still can't. I read it. I still don't know what it's about. It had this weird dance of an alien, like a woman dressed up as an alien with a snake, and then the snake killed her. That wasn't supposed to be part of the dance. And then it turned into police procedural with this cop questioning a gallery owner who had a painting that killed someone. I really don't know. And what's weird too is in the beginning, the lettering was too small. It had 6-point lettering. Then it switched over to 6-point lettering, white on red, that you really couldn't read. And then the lettering went up to the standard 8-point lettering. And I was like, oh, there was plenty of room to do standard 8-point lettering on this. Why did they use 6-point lettering? I have no idea, but it made it very hard to read. I'm not getting a second issue. But I think I will put it in my bought only for their covers section. And it's done by, who did this? It says, as told by Sam Friedman, as drawn by Vanessa Del Rey, as colored by Kayla Valerio, as lettered by Steve Ekstrom.
Why are the credits like that?
No idea. No idea. This one just baffled and confused me from the beginning to the end. And it wasn't terrible. I just didn't get it.
Yeah, that guy's not trying to disguise something deep as a pop song.
No, I don't. He's trying to disguise something, maybe. I don't know. I would love to borrow the character from Sims and give it to a new generation of authors like they're doing in Europe with Lucky Luke and Spiro. Well, I think after Sims dies, he said Cerebus is in the public domain.
Yep.
So you'll get to. Yes, it is a follow-up on the original. Okay, so this is a follow-up to Basic Instinct. All
That
right.
didn't look like Sharon Stone.
All right. I like the cover doesn't really come across well on screen because it looks murkier than it is in person, but it's a pretty nice cover and it looks like it could be Sharon Stone. Wow, that's a follow-up to the movie.
Well,
I haven't seen the original movie since when did it come out? The 80s?
Well, yeah.
So I could just not remember anything about the movie too.
I don't think you're supposed to have snake dances where they kill you and investigating murderous paintings. It was apart from the sexual deviancy of the characters, there was nothing odd about the setting where the story
Ah,
was. It was a cop movie,
well,
a cop thriller.
that one's got a real stylish weirdness to it.
Hmm.
There's very much a weird vibe, a sort of weird cop story vibe. I wasn't even sure with that first snake part. I wasn't even sure if it was a sci-fi story or not. Like, I was like, "Does this place take place?" It reminded me of Blade Runner.
Hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe that's what they're trying to do. Basic Instinct in the Blade Runner universe.
Maybe, who knows? But one issue was enough for me. They can keep the rest of them. And we'll have to mention the passing of Mike from Mike's Amazing World of Comics.
Yes. In case you haven't been to the website, if you go to mikesamazingworld.com, it will display a message with Death, starring Death,
Yeah.
talking about voyages and assuring us that the website will stay up for
Yep.
the foreseeable future. And I don't think Mike was that old. He doesn't have
Yeah.
many. Yeah, he doesn't have many biographical details, but he does
Yeah.
describe how he started collecting at age 12 in 1985. So if he was
Okay.
born, so, so if he was born in 1973, he
Yeah.
was only 50.
Right. Did you see
And
that, Wilson, that Mike from a Mike's Amazing World of Comics website died?
No, I did see a headline, but I did not know him or know of him.
Neither did I. I've just been using his website for so long.
right,
Right.
because
That's
it
the
seems
one
to.
where you can look up what comics came out on a given date.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like if you want to know what comics came out, it's where I get all the images for the Read, Rip, and Tear.
Okay, I don't think I ever actually been to the site other than when the obituary was posted up.
Oh, you should check out this. You go to the site and you click on the newsstand segment. Then you put in like August 1947, and it shows you all the comics that are out in August 1947.
Oh, okay.
Or you can choose a publisher. You can go March 1978, Marvel Comics, and it'll show you all the Marvel comics that are out in March of 78. So it's
Yeah,
it's
I
what
like
I
going
use
there.
to find the images for Read, Rip, and a Slab.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
in some respects, the database is easier to navigate than the Grand Comics database,
Right, right.
which is why I liked it so much.
Yeah,
But
very easy.
the thing is that the author, he was involved with a DC Comics podcast before podcasts were a thing. But after that, he kind of became a recluse because he removed the any contact information from his website. And if he died at 50, and he said he was semi-retired, I guess he must not have been well for a few years.
Yeah, that could
So,
have been it.
so yeah, we kind of lose another guy doing an amazing job, showing what comics can be, and
Yeah,
now we need to take up the slack.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, they also have Christian Bale's Psycho comic book series as well as Basic Instinct. Sumerian must have Psycho too, huh? Wild. Or American Psycho.
Yeah, Sumerian used to have a different name, right? They were a Blaze, weren't they? A Blaze?
Were they?
I think
Were they
they were.
someone else? I know that a couple of them have changed names. I think Ablaze is AWA.
Mhm.
I think, I don't know. Or Sumerian got bought by somebody, maybe? No. Says they're Sumerian in the old products and says they're Sumerian Comics LLC, so I'm not sure.
But they were something else.
Sumerian.inc. You can look them up. Oh, it's a $5 comic? Jeez. What did I
Oh,
buy?
they were Behemoth.
They were Behemoth. Okay. I have not shown all the versions of Great Gatsby I have. I picked one. Which one did you pick up? Because I have, let me see. They're right over here. The actual graphic novels. Great Gatsby. I believe I have 5 adaptations of The Great Gatsby. I've got this is the $84 version. The Clover Press one by Ted Adams and George Quillo. This is the one I got off of Kickstarter, which came with this nice box. This one, a graphic novel illustrated by Pete Katz. I got these ones off of Amazon. And this is the worst of the adaptations because this author chose to rewrite Fitzgerald. Everybody else just used Fitzgerald because Gatsby's actually a pretty easy book to adapt into a comic book because it's got narration and it's got dialogue. And you can just use all the narration and dialogue to make a comic book. This guy chose to, at times, rewrite the narration and dialogue. And his is not as good as Fitzgerald's. Then we've got, this is the one, graphic novel adaptation by Nikki Greenberg, that's got these funny animals one. And this came out in, what year was this? About 2007, because The Great Gatsby went into the public domain in 2007 in Australia. So an Australian person did a graphic novel which was not in the United States because it was still under copyright. But I found this one used on Amazon from the Overton Anglican College Library. So it's a library book. I don't know where Over Newton Anglican College Library. I don't know where that is. I didn't buy it from Australia, so it must have been shipped over here sometime or another. But this one is not easy to find unless you find a used copy on Amazon. Then I've got this one, illustrated by Aya Morton, text adapted by Fred Fordham. I think this was the first one to come out after it went into the public domain. And it's pretty good. This one is pretty good too, even though this one uses this weird travel stamps and they're all like sea creatures artwork. And then the other one I got is K. Woodman Maynard's The Great Gatsby, which is another one that was pretty good. Different type art on this one. So I've got 5 adaptation. Let's see. When did you read The Great Gatsby, the first of the... Not until I was in my 20s. I never read it in school. I read this side of... Matter of fact, in my 20s, I liked this side of Paradise better than I liked The Great Gatsby. And I didn't read The Great Gatsby again until, I don't even know, probably my 50s sometime. And that I only started to really like it in recent years. That's the one I found. Which one did you find in Ollie's? One of these 5. Pete Katz. Oh, the second one. Okay. Yeah, I don't know which. This one might be in Ollie's now since it just came out. The other one, well, this one came out fairly. All 3 of these came out since it's been in the public domain, and then this one just finished. The Clover, the Clover Press one. I have the individual issues for too. But that is the Great Gatsby graphic novel collection. I've also been working on a Great Gatsby random $5 paperbacks from eBay collection too. Which is the most fun when I get high school notes in it. I'd like pay extra to get some college to get Madison Newell's high school notes from the Great Gatsby.
So Madison Newell, if you're watching.
It's great. You see your notes. Highlight stuff, writes little notes in the corner. G always likes going, going, going. Fake personality. Jordan's golden shoulder. I guess gold was revealing her fake personality. Symbolizing how Daisy was very innocent. Get the notes with it. How cool. Did you make it to the comic shop this week, Wilson?
I did not. As a matter of fact, I even did a comic book haul on one of my videos, spoofing off your my comic books this week, the short version. So word for word, and I just showed my desk with nothing on it. So I found out why my books on a Friday would be said, "Oh, your books have been purchased."
Right. You
could pick it up on Wednesday. And then usually by Monday night, I get a notification that this order has been canceled. It's like, but I haven't been canceling the orders. And this has happened for like 3 weeks in a row. Only to find out is that the credit card that's there for the subscription expires this month, but it didn't expire yet. I mean, now it's expired because it's December, but right. As of today. But I guess since it was going to expire, the last 3 orders just didn't go through. Yet the card itself was still active.
That's weird.
So I don't know what in its system, because I wrote an email going, I didn't cancel this. Why is this being canceled? It shows it shows it got paid for. I was still using the card up to the last day, until the day that I received the new card in the mail. Only to find out it was that because the card was going to expire, not that it did, but it was going to, that it had to be changed. It's like, all right, I guess maybe something is set up automatically in their system to work that way. But it took like 3 weeks to figure out what was going on.
And you couldn't change the card until you got the new card.
Right.
So it's like...
Yeah. so it's like until I activate the new card, the old card is still active.
Yeah.
So it was just odd in its own self.
Yeah, that's a strange thing.
I'm sure there's an automatic thing listed somewhere.
Right.
Because, it's their website. They only have so many people working on it. So things have to be automated. And I bet you somewhere it's like, if the card is going to expire within this time frame, just, but don't tell anybody. So
why would we do that?
Exactly. So hopefully, because they told me that they put the books back into my shopping cart. So whenever I'm ready, I could just check out and they'll be ready. So hopefully I shouldn't be missing out on any of the comic books. Not that I'm subscribed to anything that's going to be like, it's going to sell out and be the next big hit comic, because those aren't the comics I tend to choose.
That's like I was telling Paulo earlier, I'm going to buy an artist edition this week at my comic shop coming up. I'm going to get the Michael Golden artist edition.
Oh, cool.
It's been sitting around the comic shop I was finally asking Roy, the owner, I'm like, how much do you want for this? And he said $100. He's giving it to me for, which is a really good price.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure, say I'll get it next week. And they're like, don't worry, we'll beat off the horde of customers looking for it.
But now that you mention it online, there's going to be a horde of people going after it.
Let's see, what else did I get this week? Oh, another number one I got this week. Maria Lovitz, Crave. Where is she from? Is she Europe? She's European, I think.
Barcelona. Yeah, she's from Barcelona.
She must be, because I've bought some of her stuff before, and I'm always disappointed that it's the European graphic album format shrunken down.
Mm-hmm.
But now it looks like this one is for the American market, because it's a 6-issue series and it's not in the European, doesn't have the European proportions.
Mm-hmm.
I like the cover. I like her covers a lot. The inside art is not quite as good. And this is a weird one. Because I know she does like erotic stories kind of thing. And that's what this one is. I'm not really 100% sure what the story is. It takes place on a college campus. And they've got this, all of a sudden, everybody had loaded on their phones this app called Crave. And it's some kind of hookup app. You can put in what you crave or who you crave, and the app will take care of it for you. Like it's put in, I like this girl, Mary. And you put in, I crave Mary. And then sometimes it's like, oh, you only have a 10% chance of making out with Mary. Or if you put in, like the guy put, I want to make out with Mary. And it's like, okay, go down to room 17 in an hour. And you go down to room 17 and Mary makes out with you. However the app arranges that. And so it's all these college kids just kind of figuring out what Crave is, and it's all their sort of romances going on, and some of them trust Crave and some of them don't, and some of them are breaking up with their boyfriends and girlfriends, and some of them are hooking up with new people. But there's something sinister going on behind it all. And the art is okay. Oh, there's a sexual page. One guy hooks up with his teacher. The art's, I kind of like it, but it's a little less refined than I think it should be.
Margins are still a bit big.
What was that?
The margins are still a bit big.
Yeah, that's because they're going by the old margins. What it is the U.S. margins, and it still does it in. If you open up InDesign, the margins are automatically set for 1/2 an inch, and that's what comic book margins used to be. But comic book margins now, the copy safe area is actually 1/4 of an inch in from the trim line, not 1/2 an inch. And that's why but some people, have been around forever, still use the 1/2 inch margins. But like a bad idea, all the margins are 1/4 inch. So that's why it looks like the margins are big, because those are the margins of a 1977 comic. But it was okay. Maybe I'll pick up a second. You know what it is? I really like the covers on them. I think she does some. She comes up with some good images. There's a nice bondage image for you. Whatever you do, don't use the Crave app. But the issue itself was only okay. I didn't really care that much about the comings and goings of random college kids. Or maybe college kids will. I don't know. Have you guys ever read any Maria Lovett?
Nope.
I don't believe so. I do like that art style, though.
Yeah, her art has always caught my eye. It's some pretty interesting. I have an issue here or there that I bought of hers, but I haven't bought a whole series yet.
Yeah, I think that's the style she adopted for commercial releases because something else was successful with that art style. Because her biographical information on BD says that she prefers to draw in manga style.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Weird. This week I got the new Blake and Mortimer arc by Flocked. Sufficiently satisfied my B&M interest in style and pipe smoking, while having much less text than the originals. Win-win.
Okay, yeah. For context, Edgar Pierre Jacobs' copy in a Blake and Mortimer comic. So you get Roy Thomas, then you multiply it by Chris Claremont.
Whoa.
And then you get a page European size.
And you fill it up.
And you fill it up. And the thing is, he's the artist of his own stories. So he'd rather fill up pages with text than with his own drawings.
Much less drawing when you fill it with text.
And he was Hergé's assistant on Tintin back in 1949.
Ah, okay. So he's been around for a while.
No, he died in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he was the original one.
Yeah, he was the original one.
Gotcha.
So the new guy Flock, he's doing a hors série. That means that it's a non-continuity one shot.
Okay.
And from what I'm looking at, this is not going to fool anybody into thinking that it's in the style of Jacobs. I mean, I can see him trying to I can see him replicating some of the style, but the page layouts are all wrong. It's a bit like it's like a cover band.
Let's
you
see.
can tell it's a.
Gore Vidal is here and says, I take it the Crave isn't the paper chase. It is not. I like her artwork. Man, I haven't seen a paper chase in a lot of years. Famous movie that used to play in PBS of all places all through the 80s about college students at some high pressure school. I forget which one. But it was all highbrow. Mind the comics. I read one blatant Mortimer 25 years ago. I might give it a try with this one if you advise it. I actually don't. I think it will only please part of the B&M fans and no one else. Well, please Flock fans too. That's kind of an overlap.
Yeah, I don't really understand why they chose this one now. I suppose they wanted the Blake and Mortimer book now because I don't think there's been one in a while, but because usually the whole série books. Actually, no, it wasn't the last Pharaoh was published here, so they're doing the whole série. I don't get it. It's not
modernized B&M well enough, in my opinion, better than anyone else could.
Yeah, what was the last one?
First Year Law at Harvard, starring the Bionic Woman, Lindsay Wagner. That's Paper Chase. Okay, it was First Year Law at Harvard. Who's it, John Houseman in that too? That's one of the teachers, one of the very serious law Harvard teachers. I have a vague memory of that, but I'm not 100% sure.
I've never watched it.
Oh, check it out. It was a good movie, Paper Chase. It was one of those good, serious movies that PBS would show all through the 80s. because they weren't showing Animal House. That's a different type of college experience. Yep. Houseman, yes, excellent film. Okay.
I
I
want to say,
was remembering that.
I want to say, I
Was
thought
that?
I remember there being a comic book named Paper Chase as well, but I'm not sure if it would be connected.
I don't remember that. I think there was
I
a short-lived TV series of that name after the movie, but I don't remember a comic Paper Chase.
I could be mixing it up with something else, but it just sounds
Yeah.
like when you first when it popped up the word Paper Chase, it was like I didn't read that comic, so to me it just sounded like
Yeah.
that it was a comic book too.
Was the movie Paper Chase or The Paper Chase? I can't remember that either. We have the series she did with Azzarello in Portugal, but her art doesn't do anything. It doesn't do nothing for me. It's a style too sloppy for my own taste. Yeah, that was my criticism I have when I said I wish it was a little more refined, because I don't want to use the word sloppy, but I know what you mean.
I don't think it's sloppy. She does seem to the storytelling seems to be there, and
Well, the storytelling is there, the
right.
basic
So
drawing is there, but sometimes, and this isn't really when I say refined, which sloppy could define it. She goes. It looks like I said, I've never seen her work. It looks like she goes with the first line that comes out of her pencil. And when you refine a drawing, you go back and you choose each line, if not carefully, in a decided style. But her, I mean, I can see why it would be described as sloppy, because it's a clear line style, but the lines aren't always that clear.
It's not a clear line style.
It's a clear line style, and that there's no line weight to it.
Mm-hmm. Right, but it's like Hugo Pratt without being oniric.
What would you? Because I just learned the clear line style name, so I'm trying to. I always referred to guys like as a no line weight style, which guys like
line.
Scott Collins and Frank Quitely kind of do.
No, there's a specific aesthetic of what you can consider clear line, because
that's what I think. I think I don't have quite a grasp on it yet, because clear line style falls into my sort of general idea of the no line weight style, but I think it's it's more specific.
It is. Because drawing and inking without weight, without spotting the blacks is pretty normal for French standards.
Right.
So you would not consider Scott Collins. You cannot consider Scott Collins clear line. It's a very specific aesthetic. It's like what punk music is. Punk music is punk music. If you do pop punk, it's no longer punk. So if you deviate from clear line, even if you're not adding any weight to the lines, it's no longer clear line.
Right. And this is single line weight, but with spotted blacks.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, like Alex Toth uses a lot of he really refines his drawing a lot. Meaning it's not the first mark. He does drawings where the first mark comes out of his pen, but he's done those so much, and he won't always use, like this right here. The covers don't look quite. The covers look much better thought out than the drawings inside do. Not that the drawings inside don't look thought, but they look sloppy, like he said. I don't think they are sloppy, but I can see how someone would think that they are sloppy. Like when she does something like this, that sort of classroom, she obviously used some sort of photo reference for that, And I think she just drew right over the photo reference, and whatever that first line that came out over top of that drawing was the drawing. She didn't go back and work it till it was refined. So that's what bothered me about it a little. Is I kept looking at it going, I wish it was more refined, i.e. less sloppy. I think it was the paper chase. Okay. Exactly. For me, that's sloppy style. Yeah. Like I don't like using the word sloppy because I don't really know but I can see how it's perceived as that. Yeah. The flocked Blake and Mortimer just mentioned is modern ultra clear line. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they start messing around with the concept. Because clear line, it's something that nowadays it looks dated, even though people like to study it. It's a bit like being a fan of Karl Barks.
Like if you look at Frank Quitely's stuff, despite the fact that I call it single line weight style, he does have some line weight in there. It's just so subtle. Which is what imitators of him don't get. What would you call Mobius?
Mobius is from the. Okay, so these definitions only make a bit sense if you're into European comics. Mobius is from the Pilot school, which means his style is more in common with Asterix than it does than it does with Bill Sienkiewicz, for example. Even though it's not an Asterix comic, because they come from the same place.
I would call Mobius illustrative.
Is
and what I mean by that is to illustrate literally means to show. So like an illustrator's job is to show you something. And like with Mobius, there's a clarity to his work where the most important thing to him is to show you something. Whatever weird thing he draws, you can see it all. He shows you kind of everything. And I think that was important. And the way he defines things, like his drawings, the various drawing techniques he uses is all to illustrate whatever he's drawing. As opposed to someone like Frank Miller, who's all about mood and energy. He doesn't care if he doesn't show you something.
Yeah, if you find his evolution from Giraud to Mobius,
right?
Another thing that I have to explain: when they usually sell the Blueberry comics in the U.S., right, they credit it to Mobius. It's not Mobius.
Right.
Mobius is specifically for his science fiction work. But you see the evolution from Blueberry to Mobius to his science fiction work in Metal Hurlant. It's parallel to the evolution of cinema in France.
A matter of fact, when I first got Marvel first published the Blueberry stuff, what startled me about it mostly is how that Mobius clarity wasn't there.
Right.
You know, it was completely that Mobius clarity wasn't around yet.
No, the work he wanted to do something that looked gritty while still being in the style of Pilot. So
and you know, like it's still like, you know, Mobius' early work is still illustration. I mean, it's not that it's not illustrative to a way, but the clarity of like you know who I would compare Mobius to? Norman Rockwell. And I would only compare them because they're both so clear. Like what always amazed me about Norman Rockwell is there's no subtext to a Norman Rockwell painting. You know, all sorts of stuff you can read subtext into. You can make oh, look at that. Yeah. Oh, look at that. Did he know that was good? With Norman Rockwell paintings, there's nothing in it that isn't as clear as day in exactly what he meant. You can try to read things into Norman Rockwell paintings and you'll fail because it's just not that, which is amazingly hard to do, by the way. I mean, it's amazingly hard to keep your subconscious out of your work, which can put stuff in there which you didn't even mean. Or society can put stuff in there it's very hard to take a Norman Rockwell painting and look at it in a lascivious manner. But other stuff you can, even other like wholesome, like think of how much people read into Family Circus cartoons. Family Circus cartoons, one of the most wholesome things out there. There's a whole genre of writing dirty captions to Family Circus cartoons because it's easy. Because you can read into a Family Circus cartoon whatever you want because they're broad. But a Norman Rockwell image is so clear and so well orchestrated and so not broad. And I think Mobius is that same way. When he draws one of those alien landscapes or whatever he draws, all his sci-fi stuff, you know exactly what everything is, even if you don't literally know what it is. Even if it's just some weird rock formation on some alien planet, you're like, that's a weird rock formation on the alien planet. He captured it perfectly. If I were to go to an alien planet and it looked like a Mobius planet, I'd be like, it all makes sense.
A couple of days ago, they were showing movies by a French director called Jacques Tati, and I didn't see the whole movies, but I was kind of looking at because Tati was also a mime. Most of the characters in the movies don't speak or speak very little. It's like you can do a 1-minute scene and there's like 2 seconds of dialogue. And I kind of wonder how much Giraud was influenced by Tati, because if you want to compare something between his 60s work and his 70s work in Mobius, if they have something in common, is the fact that the environment where the scene is set is larger than the need for dialogue, even when it's not Giraud writing, which usually isn't. And for example, Arzak is something that barely has any dialogue in it.
So you're about Eric Larson's last few issues of Savage Dragon. I have no line weight at all. Yeah, he tries to keep things interesting for himself. So he's changed styles a few times. Mm-hmm. And sometimes he does what I was saying Marie Lovett does, in that he goes with the first line that comes out of his pen. But he's drawn so much he's drawn so much stuff that the first line that comes out of his pen or pencil is often the right line or close enough. And sometimes he's just drawn the stuff fast on purpose, kind of to give it some energy. And sometimes he had a few issues a few years ago where he was trying so many different things with the layouts and the storytelling that the drawing was almost secondary. The drawing was almost so I think that's why he uses non-line. Sometimes he uses no line weight too, is just to keep things moving for himself.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. What's happening to Larson is the same thing that happened to John Byrne. There was a time when people were complaining that Byrne got lazy.
Yeah.
But he didn't.
Right.
The things he did at IDW, they are less detailed than what he did at Marvel and DC, even when he's inking himself.
I would
because usually when he inks himself, it is less detailed than somebody else thinks it. But it's what Byrne explained at the time. Is that and what you just said about Larson? Since the first line that comes out of his pen is good enough,
Right.
both of them have gotten very very efficient at coming up with a full drawing faster. They don't
Right.
need all that detail to deceive the reader.
But that's when John Byrne lost me. This is what I think John Byrne did. Basically the same thing you said in different words. John Byrne figured out the least amount of work it would take him to do a comic, to draw a comic. And that's what he did. His ambition for the drawing kind of went away. I don't know that Eric Larson's ambition for his drawing has gone away like John Byrne's. But John Byrne was still talented enough to churn out nice, pretty good comics. But I kind of lost interest in him once he's just sort of plateaued. I don't even know when. The mid 80s for me.
Yeah, I think he plateaued around 1990 when he came back to Marvel to do the Avengers.
But I understand it. I mean, it makes sense to me because he doesn't want to, you reach a certain age and you don't want to slave all day over a comic book page for the same amount of money that you could do it in half the time for.
Or less, because now you're doing creator-owned stuff for IDW in 2010. But yeah, but it's okay. I mean, that depends how you understand a comic. Because if you're there for the storytelling,
right,
it's there. The story it functions.
Right.
All the functions are there. If you're there because you like to lose yourself in all the details of a drawing, I guess they're not there. But Byrne understands that he's gotten too old to complain about the fact that he's a commercial artist.
Hey, now he's not a commercial artist. And how many issues of X-Men is he up to drawing for free? I don't even know. It was like 15 last I checked, and I think it was like a year or two ago. He's now a fan artist.
Yeah, but he's doing stuff that's exactly what he would be doing if he were working as a commercial artist at Marvel. I think Larson is less interested in putting out comics because his output dropped to 3 a year.
Yeah. See, Mind the Comics has a definition for us. Clear line is more about very light cartooning, absence of shadow lines or hatching. It's about the absence of shadow lines or hatching rather than a single line weight. Also, bright colors and higher realism in the backgrounds than the characters. Okay.
Right. The realistic backgrounds. Basically, what you have is how to do a serious, dramatic story using slapstick comedy elements.
I've heard that also described. What is it called? I think it was Dave Sim who called it cartoon realism, and he put Milton Caniff at the head of the school of cartoon realism, where there's tons of realism in Terry and the Pirates, but the faces are often cartoony.
Right. Well, it's the same with Karl Barks. I mean, he's drawing ducks, but look at where they are, where they are in the story, and the same thing happens when Uderzo was drawing Asterix. If you have a style that's cartoony, but you make sure that the world the characters live in looks realistic, you will accept the characters as being serious. So even if you're not doing a clear line, it's that type of cartooning. You're not thinking about doing what's typical about cartooning, which is comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So you lose yourself in the scene while the characters are doing what they're supposed to do.
I'll pull out another comic I got this week. which is What's the Furthest Place from Here?
Ah,
Issue number
longest-
16.
the longest title in comics, still going on.
And this one confused me and gave us readers a little more, plenty more insight into what's going on. First of all, there's one character who's been walking around being pregnant. And last issue, we saw her with her baby. She met up with some other characters with her baby. And I think they were going into, they were on their way to this city, which supposedly had the adults in it. And she ran into some other friends who were like, don't go into the city. It's a ruined city. There's no answers there. But the friends went anyway to the city, and it was a ruined city. They were all sad. So now I think this issue is a flashback. Because all of a sudden we get the pregnant woman waking up in the city, pregnant. Now we saw the baby last issue. She was walking around with the baby. And I was like, what? But there was no, last week, a month ago. Like, was this supposed to come out before issue 15? So this whole thing, we finally get some adults in this. Because the whole concept of this were these kids who lived in this city all by themselves and there were no adults around. And we find out the adults are living in this city, but they're living in a hidden part of this city. And the reason the kids aren't with them is because kids were carrying a disease that once they reached a certain age, they'd get this disease would show itself and it would kill them and kill all the other adults. So they put the kids into this city by themselves and they watch them over monitors or something. So this is all about them. And there hasn't been anyone pregnant. And they also give the kids food. And in the food is something to stop them from getting pregnant. So the fact that she's pregnant, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And they found out she's allergic to the food they give, so she never ate any of it. And then there's a person who and sometimes the kids find their way to this city when they're adults, but often they just die of the disease. And at the end, it's about her then leaving the city, and she's about to have the baby. But I'm like, didn't she already have the baby? There wasn't a second pregnant character, was there? How confused am I? But it was a good issue. I just was confused. Cooties. They gave the adults cooties. I've been enjoying this series, but overall, I'd have to say it's sort of like the TV show Lost, where I enjoyed any individual episode, but the overall show made no sense. By the way, Wilson, did you get to see the negatives I bought?
No.
Oh, you missed this part. I got, I was telling you about this last week. This issue of Bunny, which I was looking for on eBay. And what's weird, too, this is the last issue of Bunny, 21. Came out in 1976, 5 years after issue 20 of Bunny. But since I was looking for this, I happened to find the production negatives someone was selling.
Oh, okay. So I saw the like one of them.
I mentioned these last week, but they weren't in.
Right. No, I mean earlier in the show when I was texting
Oh, okay.
in,
You did see this? Yeah.
I did see like the last one when you were questioning why there was like some sort of
that
or something
opaque
on it. Yeah, because I remember, as I mentioned, I did some work for a printer.
Right.
And I remember watching them take negatives and putting some sort of paint on them.
Right.
And I asked, why were you doing that? It's like, well, because the negatives will have scratches and there's light passing through.
Yeah.
So to block the light where it wasn't needed, we would put this on there. And I think
I think that But when I scanned them in, and I think also because on this side you can't see the paint,
Right.
but on this side you can, like, all those gray squatches right there are that paint.
Yeah, that's
But
what
you
it.
can't
That's what I
see
remember
'em from
them
over
doing.
here.
That's what I remember them doing. They would have it on a light box, and they would be
Right.
painting certain things,
They'd be
and they would
looking
be
for pinpricks of light coming through.
right, and then they would cover it with that chemical or whatever, the paint
Yeah.
or whatever it was. So I think that's what that is
Yeah.
residue of that paint.
It is, but I had to scan the side that paint, because I think you're supposed to scan these emulsion side down. I read, which is the side that stuff was on, I think. So I was actually picking it up.
Oh,
So I had
okay.
to clean it up in the scan, and then I made it didn't quite come out right. It's got to be darker. I made the 3M proof of my own by printing it on clear acetate inkjet paper.
Neat. Okay.
So it's like I made my own proof, which isn't. I need to get the right settings for my printer because it didn't print it dark enough. So you can that blue is supposed to be 100% cyan, and it's more like 70% cyan. And also, they only had 27 colors for this cover. It says on the front 100 red, 75, 100, 50, and 25 for all three plates. It says it on there.
Right.
So there wasn't even a 75% of all the colors, so they can get 64 colors. They only had 27 colors to do this cover.
Wow.
Which is why those two pinks are so close. The pink of her skin is 25 yellow, 25 magenta, and the sky is 25 magenta.
Right.
So they blend right to. And why are the word balloons not white? I don't know. Except that they did this 5 years afterwards and nobody cared.
Probably. It probably was exactly that.
Yeah, I said that. I think they only put, since there was a 5-year interval, the comic was published just so they could keep the trademark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
The queen of the in crowd, and I made a big print of it too. Yeah, let me see if I can show you the scanning acetate is tough when you don't have a special. I don't know if it shows up here, but if you look on this side over here, the magenta screen isn't quite even. It's darker near the edge because all the dots just didn't scan perfectly.
Right.
It's really not so bad in this print, but as I darken the magenta to get it closer to this, it shows up even more. You can see the difference in how much darker this pink is in the sky than this one. So I was thinking about recoloring it and screening it in Photoshop. I have to figure out what size screen they use. That's the only hard part to it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure because last time I ever had to work off of plates, it was for one of the manga companies. They had said I was doing the lettering for it, and a couple of pages were given to me in the plate in the negative format, but digitally. Right. And it was like, well, I could put this together, but this is something really for your bullpen to do because I'm only responsible for lettering it. But I don't know what politics were going on at this company. I got an email back saying that the bullpen is not going to touch this. The only way we could get this done if you did it. And it's like, okay, send me the files. And I got the files, and they were all negatives digitally, but they were all negatives. And it was like, all right, even though I'm a letterer, I know how to put this together in Photoshop.
Yeah.
So I opened it up, and I assigned each negative to be their color, and then Photoshop did all the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, really? This is something that you guys couldn't handle? So again, I don't know what was going on.
Right,
I think they were upset for the fact that they had to send the book out to be worked on out of house. So I thought maybe it was like they were going to trip me up and go, see, you can't send it out of the house. People don't know how to do it. It's like, no, I just did it and sent it back in. What I did find interesting to look at the file in that kind of format was, even though it was a digital file given to us, it looked like the printed file. So I think they made the negative out of a printed file in the first place, because you can see the grain of the paper within the negative itself. And I thought that was really odd to see. But again, it was one of those things like, all right, if you know the mechanics of it, you can put it together. And it's like, I just happen to know the mechanics of it. But that was the only time I ever got to really work on film. Work on a negative, that type of thing. So that's pretty cool that you were able to use it and put it together.
I got to say, these registration marks really are handy. For lining things up. They really do work. Let's see, 62 Lefty Blue says, Joe, read Rip and Slab for today? I think I still have a few left. Let me pull one out here. Haven't made a new batch yet, but I think there's 3 left in the old batch. Let's see, I'll give you 3 years, 69, 83, and 1940. Anybody have a preference?
Let's go for 69. It's a good it's a good sounding number.
And we've got September 1969, Gold Key, Charlton, and DC. Let's see here. Present. Share screen. Window. And let's say thanks to Mike of Mike's Amazing World of Comics website, who passed on this week. That's where I get these images from. We've got Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 97. We've got Surfing Wheels, number 1. Ooh, first issue. And we've got Boris Karloff, Tales of Mystery, number 28. That, I think, is a nice variety of not the top books of September 1969.
I believe I used to own that Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane, because I think I remember that. I think I remember that story. Surfing Wheels, I've seen that cover fairly recently.
You get surfing and you get motorcycle racing in that one.
And Boris Karloff it's alive, growing, and deadly. I wonder if that's supposed to be.
I believe they're fighting a pink blob. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'm going to slab the Boris Karloff because it is a really nice cover.
Yeah, all 3 of these covers are pretty good.
They're pretty good, but the Gold Key, because it's it's more painted. Even though the middle one is kind of painted as well. I cannot find myself ever ripping a Superman cover, so that one is going to be red. And then the Surfing Wheels, I'm not only going to rip it, I'm going to rip it right down the center and make.
I was looking at that saying, "There's a line to rip it on."
There's a line to rip it down the center, and then you have 2 comic books.
I'm just going to read Surf,
and then you can slab them. So, yeah. So that's the way I would do it. Now, I think I would have the dolphins riding the motorcycles on the wheels section. This way here we can have 3 dolphins on there.
I think you'd be better off having 1 dolphin, and he'd be in the lead.
No, that's true too. That's not a bad idea in itself.
The humans will try to catch up with it. You'll be like, how come those humans can't catch up with the dolphin?
And the dolphin doesn't even have 2 legs.
It's just sonar.
Yeah. And the flamingos will be watching the blob. They'll be just sitting there in the front, just watching these people get consumed by the pink stuff. That's how I do. Rip, Surfing Wheel right down the center.
Let's
I'm
see.
going-
62 Lefty Blues says slab Lois Lane, read Boris Karloff, and rip Surfing Wheels. I think
I'm going to
Dolphin.
slab Surfing Wheels because
You
I
wanna
want to
protect
read.
it?
Because I want to read Boris Karloff, and I'm definitely ripping Lois Lane.
My daughter bought me a T-shirt with a party flamingo to use every Friday. Read and slab.
I refuse to read or protect a comic that has Laurie Lamars in it.
Oh, come on. One of my very first Superman story I read was with her in it.
Gonna read Boris, slab Surf #1, and rip Lois, which I think is what Paulo just did, right?
Yeah.
Dolphin the gun and Boris. Flamingos riding the surfboard.
I'm going to dolphin the surfboard. That'll make the comic more interesting.
You got 2 dolphins in the surfboards.
Yeah, and I'm going to perch the flamingos on Laura's whatever passes for knees in a mermaid.
I had that thought too.
Although I also thought maybe replacing Boris with the dolphin. And the dolphin presents Tales of Mystery.
Yeah. Dolphin
and have it black and white too.
I'm going to make the pink blob a dolphin. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it. Have his head kind of sticking out maybe somewhere? I think I can turn that blob into a dolphin.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I just couldn't figure out how.
I think I could. Then let's see. I'm going to read Boris Karloff. No, I'm going to read Surfing Wheels. Slab Boris Karloff and have to rip Lois Lane. Bye, Lois. Oh, I am going to put the flamingos. I'm going to integrate them onto the Lois Lane logo. So they're going to be standing on the logo, watching. It's going to give us another level because that cover is very designy. Because they're not really in any space, and it's like the 3 women there are kind of in a conceptual space. Even Superman and Lois Lane are kind of in a conceptual space because there's just a little bit of ground there with orange behind them. So I want to create a 3rd conceptual space of the flamingos on the logo to just add to it. Is that a Kurt Swan cover on Lois Lane?
I think so. I was just looking at that. I think that's a Kurt Swan cover. I think that the Surfing Wheels could possibly come from Neil Adams' studio. Maybe not Neil himself.
Well, Dick Giordano was editor-in-chief for a while, but I don't think he was there when Surfing Wheels came out.
Sorry, Paulo, and he just telling me to slab the cover with the mermaid lady on it.
You have to tell your daughter. Sorry, no, you have to tell your daughter that you're very disappointed in her and that you wanted
Oh man!
Read the surf and rip Boris. So he's slabbing Lois.
Okay, so
yep.
Who drew the cover?
Per his daughter. Those are some pretty good covers all the way across, I gotta say.
The Surfing Wheels is a Jack Keller. Well, Jack Keller did the auto racing comics at Charlton, but Surfing Wheels was not your typical auto racing comic, so
he did some westerns for Marvel, right? I remember seeing them reprinted.
He did Two Gun Kid for 14 years.
Oh, okay, that's where I know his name from then, Jack Keller. 14 years. I really should know that.
But at Charlton, he was doing the auto racing comics.
I was thinking of oh God, his name just flew out of my head. The Marvel comic artist who died on the train in '57.
Oh, Manley? No.
Maneely.
Joe Maneely.
Yeah.
because I was sitting on the train going to the very same Jersey Transit trains that he died on. And I happened to be sitting on the way the Jersey Transit, some of them are set up is there's regular train seats all through the train, but then near the doors there are these sort of little, they're less comfortable, almost temporary seats. That's where you sit if you're getting off right away or you don't want to go down into the car. So I was sitting in one of those, but I was right next to the door that was between train cars, which is where Joe Maneely fell from, between train cars. And we're on, we're heading into, this is the last stop. It's in between Secaucus Junction going into New York City. And usually on the trains, there's a button you press and the door between cars opens. The one next to me, the button happened not to be working. You had to tug on that door in order to get it open. And I only knew that because one of the conductors went through. And as I was sitting there in the 10-minute ride between those two stations, must have been 3 people were like walking all the way through the train. And every time I was like, button doesn't work, you have to pull. Button doesn't work, you have to pull. And there's like 2 other people in that area with me. And they're both looking at me like, why are they in such a hurry? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why they got to walk through the train now. We got another 5 minutes before it lands, and we were at the front of the train just about already. And all I could think of was Joe Maneely falling off that train. That's what I think of every time we're moving and people walk between those cars. Joe Maneely. Let's see. Lois cover really lacks weight. Superman is stepping on eggs. Well, yeah, I think that's let me put that back up there. I don't disagree with you, but I think the Lois Lane covers Superman wasn't as super heroic on. So I think because he was like a side character in the Lois. And if you notice, I think Lois looks more heroic than Superman does here.
The Lois Lane comic was a parody comic. It was not meant to be heroic.
So I think that's what, like I said, I don't think that was an oversight. I think that was just the way that comic was made. Almost 100 comics of Lois Lane. Wow. Yeah. Good evening, Lord Tatman.
Hey.
Welcome.
Let's see, what other comics did I get? Well, here's one I picked up. This is a one-shot. I've been meaning to check this comic out. The Wrong Kind of Righteous, Barbaric. And it was good. I enjoyed this. This was the $7 comic, double-sized, by Vault.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed this one lately, and I've picked it up before, and liked the art in it. And I've also noticed it because one of the comics Bad Idea was doing was named Barbaric before they changed the name because this comic was out. To They're All Terrible. So They're All Terrible by Bad Idea was originally named Barbaric. So that's why it caught my eye too. But this was a pretty fun comic. See this thing right in the middle there? That's his axe with a mouth on it. So it's about this barbarian. The woman was also a magic user. There's his axe right there. So he's got this sentient axe that eats people. So as he's swinging the axe is taking bites out of people too. And the axe is kind of evil and just wants to wait, but he's comedically evil. He wants to eat everyone. And Barbaric he's a barbarian and he doesn't mind killing people, but he's got I think he's cursed. He's cursed to have to get justice for people. So he can't just kill people willy-nilly. He's got to kill in the name of justice, even though the axe keeps talking him into killing everybody, which he doesn't want to do. And then this guy right here, he's the villain of the piece, and he's got a flail. Except this flail doesn't want to kill anyone. It's a magic flail that kills people. But every time he uses it, the flail is like, "Oh, stop this! Somebody stop him! Oh my good! Oh my! Now I'm tasting this guy!" So it's like the flail doesn't want to kill anyone, but is used for kill. The flail is actually from some hero called the Black Knight, who lost the flail. Somehow the Black Knight got kidnapped. We don't know anything about him. And this guy found the flail and was like, now I can use this to get justice. And he is a guy who, like, is the Punisher who kills jaywalk. Remember the Punisher in his jaywalking killing period?
Yes.
That's who this guy is. So eventually our hero, Barbaric, has to go up against him. But there's a lot of violence and a lot of humor in it, and I really enjoyed it. I actually want to find there's 3 Barbaric trade paperbacks. And I think she's the magic user in the book. She was only in it a little. Yeah, that was her whose face I showed before. But yeah, it was enjoyable. Who did this one? The writer was Nicholas Eames, Eames. Then it's another writer, Michael Morecki, Moreci. Colorist, Addison Duke. The artist is Nathan Gooden, Gooden, and Jim Campbell is the letterer. This is I don't know how big, it feels like about 48 pages, $7, one shot. But good book. I enjoy. I'm gonna look for more Barbaric now from Vault because it was fun.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a fun book.
Yeah. Yes, there have been several miniseries. Okay. Barbarians always have barbaric noses. That's a well done muzzle. Yeah. I bought like 10 big hardcovers. Well, that was his Braxton. He said something here about the axe gets drunk off of blood, he says. What does he say here? That death was too strange. It reminds me of some of the deaths in Sopranos. The mob did it. The axe gets drunk off the blood. Right? There's a couple of there was a couple of 3 volumes. Someone asked the barbarian for help. He cannot refuse them. Okay. Anyone take advantage of in-stock trades, Black Friday sales? No. I didn't even know. And then he said, okay, I bought like 10 big hardcovers. Went a little overboard. Wow. Hey, Jared, you read Manifest Destiny, don't you? Yes. It's worth it. I like Manifest Destiny. I bought it from beginning to end. Good comic. Liked the artwork, liked the writing, fun. I liked the faux history of it. I think there's an ad for my local buddy's book in that. In Barbaric, let's see. We got an ad for Hollow Heart. We got an ad for Witch Blood and the Shadow Service. We got an ad for End After End and the Last Book You'll Ever Read. And we got an ad for The Rush. So if one of those books is your buddy's, there it is. Yes. Yup, it's Hollow Heart. Let's see, which one is that? Hollow Heart, Allure Tucker, Allor. Whoops, there we go. Hollow Heart. Beautifully tragic by Horror DNA. Insightful, intimate, and mysterious monkey fighting robots. Vivid and evocative by Black Nerd Problems. Paul Allure and Paul Tucker. There we go. That's Allure and Tucker. Paul Allure and Paul Tucker. Zoot Allures. I don't know what that means, but I think Batroc the Leaper said it a lot. Zoot Allures.
It means gosh darn it.
Manifest Destiny is over. Yeah, I think it was like 48 issues, somewhere around there. Paul Tucker and Wallace Ryan. Wallace Ryan still does hand lettering. Whoa. I also picked up, I put this on my pull list. Tony S. Daniels, Edenwood, where we got to learn. So far, I've liked it better than his and Scott Snyder's Nocterra, even though it's only been 2 issues so far. Some nice Tony S. Daniels artwork. Well, I've never read a lot of his stuff. And this is a fantasy story where this fantasy world has been taken over the earth for a long time. And these people just got sucked up, and once you're sucked up into it, you're caught up fighting demons. But what was weird is this issue started out New England, 1777, 3 years ago. I don't remember the first issue being in the past. Because they were just in some land and then got sucked up into Edenwood. And then it takes, like I said, some nice Tony S. Daniels drawing. It's a pretty good storyteller too. And then it takes place, 3 years after, today. It says up there. I think today must be 1780 then. But I don't remember that from the first issue. Do I lie? The children will serve the kingdom. And death to everyone else. So I've been enjoying fun stuff. If you're looking for a fun fantasy comic. Damn, hand lettering. One of my students was just saying he wants to learn hand lettering, so I gave him a quick conceptual lesson on how to file a 107 Hunt pen tip. Have you ever done hand lettering, Wilson?
I've never done hand lettering. I don't even believe I've ever owned an Ames guide.
I have to look and see if I have one for him. Jared, you might like their new Image book, Stringer, Murder, Mystery, and Drug Running Tennis Story from Image. I'll have to check that one out. Stringer. Is it out already, the first issue or whatever? Stringer? I don't remember the name, but I don't see everything.
Does Todd Klein still ink? Still a hand letter?
Who letters Walt Simonson's? Is that Workman?
It's usually Workman, yeah.
Workman still will hand letter Walt stuff. I know that. I don't know if who else does.
Yeah, well, thing is, nobody else did what Starkings did. Create a font based on your hand lettering. And Workman should have. His style should be more in demand.
If he's still working, I imagine he does doing digital.
Yeah, because that's the problem. Nobody wants to do what Workman does because it takes I bet it takes too much work. But he does have a style that I think a lot of people would love to copy.
Stringer is a hardcover one shot. Okay.
Todd Klein should have figured out how to do something that looks like his hand.
He must. Hand lettering. You can pay Richard Starkings to make a font out of your hand lettering. People have.
Yeah.
I know that, so.
I think Rick Parker still hand letters.
What was that? Rick Parker. Yeah.
I think he still hand letters, yeah.
I think he does digital too. But yeah. But like I specifically know that because I've talked to Walt about it, that his Ragnarok is hand lettered. Ribbon Queen also takes place in the past, this issue, but this is a flashback. It tells you. It's sort of the origin of Ribbon Queen, which is no origin at all, kind of. Does it give us a year? It doesn't give us a year, but people are living in roundhouses with thatch roofs. And it's about these two women are hiding from this men from another tribe that are killing everybody in their village, and she's dreaming about it. Our lead character is dreaming about it. And then here we go. This is the literal origin of the women of the Ribbon Queen. One of the women runs away, and she runs into the woods that you're not supposed to go in because bad things lived in the woods. And then when she came out of the woods, the Ribbon Queen was in her and tore some of the men apart into ribbons. It's not much of an origin, but somehow the Ribbon Queen is still around from those long ago days and still killing men who wrong women. Okay. But it's been a good book. I really like Jason Burrows' art is really nice, and the writing has been good too. It's 8 issues. This is issue 5 of 8. So if you like horror comics, this is a pretty good one. I'm biased, but Wallace Ryan has hand lettering on par with Dave Sim. Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check that. Also got the latest issue of Local Man. This I recommend. It's been good from the beginning till now. It's about the guy kicked out of the superhero team and has to move back to his old hometown. Now he's caught up. And here's in particular, he got dosed with a hallucinogen. And so he starts interacting with the balloons, and he bumps into the panels, and he doesn't know what's going on. That's him on a hallucinogen.
That's pretty funny. I like that idea.
And then I won't show it on screen. There's a bit where, since he's on a hallucinogen, he thinks his girlfriend sent him a dirty picture. His ex-girlfriend, I should say, who's now married to the sheriff, sent him a dirty picture, texted him a dirty picture. So he's like, oh, cool, I got to send her one back. So he sends him a picture of his junk, which she gets, and it turns out she just texted him a picture of a donut. She's like, what the? So fun, and then we get a quick story in the back of him in the 90s. Well, actually, his girlfriend in the 90s now. Huh. Last time I got dosed on a hallucinogen, I got beat up by the police. Whoa, 25 years ago. Sting and Stuart Copeland, or the guys with the batons? And nothing like a cheesy police joke from the 1980s.
Yeah.
Now I got police songs going through my head. By the way, this the folder on this says Two Gun Kid, June 130. In 112, due 116. How can that be? How can it be in 112 and due 16? Shouldn't those be opposite?
Oh.
But I guess this folder.
No, due to receive and in to go to production.
Maybe. And they reused the folder thinking it was for Bounty. And then they changed it to Bunty. Someone wrote Bunny 21. The things to be found on eBay. And that's looking pretty brown, that folder.
Oh yeah, it's the whole reuse, recycle as much as possible.
Good
I'd
thing,
slap the shit out of Sting and Como.
but it's almost like Ike was there. What do you mean by new folders? Are you trying to steal my folders?
Bunny. It'd been so
No,
long
only
between
staples.
Bunny 20 and 21, they didn't know the name to it.
Do you think Ike is engineering the hostile takeover of Disney by Apple?
There's a hostile takeover of Disney by Apple. I can't imagine anyone wanting to team up with Ike to do anything.
No, I
Well, maybe
cannot.
No.
No. Yeah,
Well,
I could not see that.
Somebody at Disney must think it's a good idea. Even with them losing money, it's not just Apple wanting to buy them all of a sudden.
Apple doesn't have a history of buying big companies, though.
No.
But they've got the cash. They could do it tomorrow.
Well, Apple are the name that's most bandied about us doing the hostile takeover.
Oh. Dying to get my Mad Men library editions in the mail. Need to see all red in oversized format. I had to sell it, but I had the first Mad Men omnibus that must have come out 10 years ago. And it was really nice in terms of printing. It laid open flat beautifully. When I was broke a few years ago, I ended up selling it for a couple $100. But that was a really nice edition. If you can try, I don't know if the new ones are going to be as good as that, but if they are, you're in for a treat. Atomica? I think it was the original Madman stuff. That came out. I don't know the name of the book. Like I said, it came out a decade ago. It was like an omnibus of Madman. My friend gave it to me, as a matter of fact. And it was one of the, in terms of a physical product, it was one of the nicest, maybe the nicest omnibus I'd seen, because those omnibuses don't always open, especially the DC ones. They don't open. That was the name of the book. Then another called Gargantuan. Atomica sounds right, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see, got the latest issue of Grimm, which was good. Grimm's been a solid B. Though what was weird about this book that I wasn't overly, who's it, the writer Stephanie Phillips, illustrated by Flaviano. And I like Flaviano's figure work, but the whole thing took place in a diner, or a lot of it did at least. And I just wasn't that impressed with his drawing of the diner. The diner was pretty generic. Especially in this day and age of 3D backgrounds and everything mapped out. Let me give you a good look of the diner. This is kind of the double page spread of the diner. And even like those bottles behind there are just kind of generic.
Yeah. It's like that scene in college that has DMV tables.
Yeah. In the Gatsby graphic novel, you're right. It's just generic kind of.
I don't think they make those chairs anymore.
They might. Who knows?
To sit at the counter.
I don't know.
Even to sit at the counter, I don't think they make those chairs anymore.
They're certainly generic diner chairs.
They're not very comfortable.
Generic menu. There's not even anything up there but that's the only thing I didn't like about, because his figure work is terrific. I mean, look at that. That's nicely designed, nicely drawn. But every time I saw that diner, I was just kind of like, eh. Oh, I was underwhelmed by it. Now I could certainly understand he didn't want to draw a diner, a whole thing in a diner, but
Yeah, that might exactly be it. It's
look
like,
who's
oh, this
showing
is
up for the
boring.
last few minutes. It's Chris Geruso showing up.
See?
Welcome,
I
Chris.
told you.
Hey guys.
I told you it's surprises.
Yeah, you did.
Psychic powers.
Let's see. Trying to find an Ecstatics omnibus for a decent price. So much shit I need to buy, but not enough money to buy it. Yeah. I look at Grimm on the stands all the time and never. I like Grimm. It's a solid B. Icons on Earth. It's the name of the TV series. Bad buttoning at the diner, I see. Ooh.
No, they have the worst the worst floor tiles and chairs, and he pays attention to the buttons.
Of course. I don't see any buttoning there. I'm not sure what he was referring to since I'm not seeing many buttons. Oh, that maybe on that guy's got buttons. Let's see. Yeah, this guy, I don't even think he's drawing buttons on this guy. Whoops, he's got a little the glow of the reflections over his shirt. Not great. I got to put that diner away. I can't look at that diner. Oh, no, just saying. He's saying, he's calling my...
Well,
There goes the diner.
so Chris, how you been?
I've been all right. How about you?
Not too
First
bad.
time I've
Not
get
too
kicked
bad.
out in a while.
It's because of the diner. He had to
of the
get rid of
diner.
it so
Yeah,
bad.
man.
This diner offends me. I'm leaving.
You spoke out against Big Diner.
Chris, sounding like in Cheers. How's your art jacket going? It made its debut this week. My students loved it. It got comments on the street. Some random guy in the streets of Manhattan on 7th Avenue saluted me.
All right.
Homeless dudes and security guards love it. Last few minutes with Mr. Chris here, I would stay for another hour. Well, you can stay for an hour with Chris. We'll leave him on.
I don't generally add too much to these, even if I'm here the whole time. So I don't know if
Your
that's worth
charm
it.
and personality just come over the airwaves like real strong.
Well, we do have some novelties. So since you changed the camera setup, we're looking at a different part of your head.
Yes.
And what are you working on tonight, Chris?
I'm working on a composite Avenger.
Ooh.
Ooh.
I remember
Neat.
that from the West Coast Avengers issue.
That is correct.
Oh, look at that. Now, is this for someone? Or
Yes,
are you
it
just
is.
putting it in the general
No, this is a request.
a request?
Yeah.
Did you ever draw Captain Ultra?
I don't think so because I don't know who that is. But
Okay.
I may have actually. So I don't know.
Captain Ultra is a guy who wears every Marvel costume at the same time. He debuted in the Avengers, in the Defenders, I mean. And there was a Marvel Comics Presents where the guy was afraid of fire and he went to Doc Simpson to get cured.
Huh.
He was a failed comedian who thought it would be better to become a superhero. And
I don't think I've drawn him. Then
Well, his costume is unmistakable. When you have time, you Google him.
You got saluted as a general of art. Yeah, there we go. That's like, I'm going to have to find where I wrote it down. One time, I think it was either the late 90s or the early 2000s. It was the early 2000s. Because I was coming from a Marvel event. that was up near 40th Street, but on the west side of town. And I was leaving and walking towards Port Authority bus station. And I had on my old painted duster.
And you ran into me, and you were like, "I don't have my shirt."
Nope, not that. This was not a dream. This was real life. It's okay. I lose shirts all the time.
Yeah, so I carry an extra.
So I'm walking there, and all of a sudden, this guy starts walking next to me, matching my pace. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? He looks over at me. He's like, hey, you know who you are? I'm like, who? He's like, you're the parson.
What?
So
I'm like, okay. Then he says something else that I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere. I'm going to find it. And walks on. I'm like, okay, I'm the parson.
What was that supposed to mean?
I don't know.
It means
Some
like
crazy guy in New York City came up to me because of my crazy coat and said something.
means you'll do the job when he's in town. When he's gonna get married.
Maybe he took the same LSD as Tapman.
Oh, and the last comic I got this week, Swan Song number 5. W. Maxwell Prince, Alex Ekman Lawn. It was pretty good. Don't have much to say about that. It's a nice surrealist cover. Pretty cool. Swan Songs, each issue is different. It's about endings. That one was about the ending of childhood.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, oh, that's right. I asked him what he was working on, and he said that. Oh, that's what I was going to say to him. One of my
another
fellow.
one.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, nice.
There's a Marvel 2-in-1 cover. Thing in Sasquatch. And here's a Doom Patrol cover.
You're never too young for a Nam flashback. Sorry, I heard him.
You're the old possum.
What was I about to say? Oh, one of my fellow teachers is a guy who, what does he do? He teaches 3D art and how to code. And he's recently, of course, been trying out AI art since he has to do something with that his regular job too. And he came up with something which he thought would help comic book artists at Comic Cons. Where if you have a piece of art, famous piece of art, let's just say, where's one with a face? Here we go. Barbaric right here. Let's just say you could see his face and he didn't have a hood over it. He came up with it. He wrote this program that uses AI where you snap. If a fan wanted his face on this face, you snap a picture of it, choose the picture, and it automatically maps the fan's face on your art in 4 seconds. And then you could print it out for him or something. So he was trying to figure out a way for artists at cons to sell prints. And you can sell them. If a fan wants your print, you can put their face on the print. If they so wanted. I was like, oh, that's it. And he showed me it working. I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. But
yeah, I can see the appeal of that.
Right. And I was and he's now, and the first, I thought of Chris, and I said, well, how does it work for cartoony art? And he's like, the eyes aren't quite good. I'm working on that right now. So it works better with realistic art right now, but he's working on a cartoony art version of it. But I'll let you know how that goes. Because he was like, I don't know what to do with it next. You know comic book guys. I was like, okay. We'll see. I'll see if any of them are interested in it. We'll see what happens. Because he just showed it to me this week.
But AI is actually good. It's already opening up new avenues of business for comic artists. So instead of complaining that your style is getting copied, okay, how do I figure out how to put a customer's face?
Right. That's
my
his
drawing?
approach. That's his approach. Got Swan Song 2 and every issue so heartfelt. I'm just missing number 2. Looking forward to issue 5. It reminds me of a TV series called Gun. Yeah, it's a good book. I like it. Like I said, each issue is about heartfelt stories about endings. Like I said, I think I'd define this one as childhood ending. If I had to come up with. It's about a guy who can't feel things. Or nothing makes him happy. That's it. He doesn't like anything. It's kind of like Chris. Nothing makes him happy.
I was just going to say, that sounds very familiar. I don't think I'm the only one that can relate to that, though.
No.
Come on. It's the whole world. If you looked around,
everyone's unhappy. Everyone vending at shows can bring along their printers because they're super light and easy to lug around. Yeah, well, it would take some doing. That's what it'll. They're actually not that heavy printers. If I could make money at it, I could bring this 11x17 printer to a show. I mean, people lug thousands of pounds of comic books to a show. It would take some doing.
Yeah,
and hey, it's a 2023 printer. It's not a 1973 printer.
I don't think anyone lugs thousands of pounds.
They cart them gently.
I think you're driving it. You're getting in a van. You're driving your van. You're not. It's not like one guy.
How do the comics get in and
suitcase.
out of the van? Well, it's Javits Center. It has to be the union guys who move it out, I think. But I think you might have to lug them in.
All right. So, yeah, as long as you have a van, with your thousands of comics, you might as well add a printer to it. And since we all fill up a van with comics and bring them to every convention we do.
What if you were a man with a van? Huh? What could you do then?
That's I mean, it's a hilarious reference. I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know that.
Man with a van signs?
No.
Didn't you live in New York City?
Yeah, but not when it was cool.
Okay.
It was after it was cool.
That's just a way that people make money sometimes. You put up a sign that says you're a man with a van, and if you need a man with a van to help you move stuff, you pay him, and he.
How about this? Man with a color printer.
There you go.
You show up at the convention and you just tell all the artists, like, hey, I got the printer.
I know.
If you want to make prints.
Exactly. You can be the printer guy.
That's the only thing you got to bring
them up
out.
with the software, and then the guys to come over to you to print it out. See, these are the things we're thinking of, Chris.
We're coming up with solutions.
Yeah.
You could dress up as Mr. T, and then you become the man with the van, fool.
Paulo, we only have 2 printers in Newfoundland, and now not our king owns them.
That's right.
The man with a van is usually a rapist. Not usually; they just hide amongst them.
No, if the van doesn't say free candy, it's safe.
Well, it's time to say good evening, so Paulo can get to bed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's a little Composite Avenger for you. Here, we're going full screen to show Composite Avenger. Hold on. There we go. Look at that. Composite Avenger. That's good stuff right there.
Very nice.
Maxwell Prince is a curious writer. He's doing very interesting stuff. Picked up Art Brut #1. He comes out very original. Art Brut is actually a reprint. that one, I forget what it was called, but there's actually a trade of it out already. And there was Art Brut. They were supposed to be remastering it for that series. And I bought the first issue of Art Brut and bought the reprint for cheap off of eBay, the trade paperback, and compared them, and there was nothing different. That's some fine cross-hatching, Chris.
A curious writer
Thank
is a good
you.
way to.
Let's see if we can get some balloons going before we leave. No, it
Probably
only
not.
came up that one time accidentally.
It's not working anymore.
I tell you, it wasn't working to begin with, then it stopped. Then it worked, then it stopped working.
It seems to only pop up when you're like doing it naturally when you were talking. Like, so there were these 2 comic books, and then it just showed up.
That's really good, Chris. That's really good, Chris. Pure cartooning.
Thank
It looks
you.
like the Adaptoid. Sort of the same concept, except the
Yeah.
Adaptoid. Yeah.
Adaptoid was with the
Yeah.
Avengers, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the West
the-
Coast
and it-
Avengers version.
And it was created by AIM.
Advanced idea mechanics.
I did like the Adaptoid. Then there was a point in AIM's history where they tried to turn AIM into the Rogs and Light, and their leader was an Adaptoid.
All right, we'll talk more about Adaptoids next week.
The
So
all
you guys all have a
Adaptoid.
good week out there. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Take care, everybody.